you're taking cold plunges and doing hikes on Mount and putting yourself through 75 hard, basically doing all these challenges and stuff, but you're broke, stop doing all those things that are just a form of procrastination, because it's this false sense of busy work, right? Like, oh man, I'm taking on this challenge. Yeah. I'm doing Bedros' 6-week marathon challenge. I'm too busy to go out and make money right now.
4 hours, 5 hours later, you hit the desk and it's like, okay, buddy.
Or the people who are like, man, I'm so busy, I'm doing this, I got this hobby and that hobby, I'm like fit and jacked, and I'm all for being fit and jacked, but your relationship is struggling and suffering. Like, are you procrastinating on working on that? What if you can put some effort into that relationship? At the end of the day, it's a fear of something, because maybe this person has this fear of going out there and making money because they've lost money in the past when they had a surplus, and so their reptilian mind is like, you go out there and make more money, you're either going to fail at it or you're going to lose it again and look stupid. Or maybe this person is like, they know that if they try and rekindle their relationship that's on its last leg, that it's going to take a lot of work, but it's all a form of procrastination.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey, welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. My name is Bryce Henson, your Fitness CEO, and if you're new to the channel, another month, April, here we come, and I got my dude, Bedros Keuilian, my business partner, my mentor and friend in the studio, and we're going to be talking a little today about procrastination, which unfortunately is a symptom that people and entrepreneurs face. So we're going to unpack that today and also give some strategies to our audience how to overcome that so they can dominate their path ahead.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And as someone who was a former procrastinator, I think I have a good amount to say about it.
Let's go. Well, first and foremost, I want to unpack from a foundational level. B, from your lens, where does procrastination come from? What's the root cause?
It comes from two places. One, it comes from a place of fear, like the unknown, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen if I launch this thing.
Yeah.
It could be launching a marriage. It could be launching a journey. It could be launching a business. In this case, is what we're probably talking about, is launching a business. Like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Because our brains are designed to kind of think for the worst case scenario, and it's designed that way for survival. Like, if we're always looking for threats, then we can avoid those threats and survive. That's our reptilian mind. We've evolved now, and there is no brontosaurus or saber-toothed tiger or an opposing tribe trying to kill us every day, and so we don't need that brain anymore, yet we still have that reptilian brain, and so we come from a place of fear. And if we don't know the outcome for certain, then we tend to procrastinate because of fear. The other place it comes from is selfishness. And selfishness because, well, I've got something here I know can change people's lives, but until it's perfect, I'm not going to launch it. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know, like, Fit Body Bootcamp's not perfect. Mm-hmm. Any business that we have that's out there, Tesla, Apple.
Company is perfect.
Yeah, if Apple was perfect, you'd never get another new download of new settings and updates, right? It'd be perfect out the box.
I just updated my phone today, then
right.
17.1 iOS update, meaning our system is inferior. We're going to make it better, and therefore we're going to optimize, and here's an update.
Right, exactly. And so I say selfishness because people are like, wait a minute, what's wrong with having a perfect product? Well, you could only bring things close to perfect if you launch it and let the marketplace tell you what's wrong with it. I imagine since the last update, Apple on their iPhones, since they did the last update, they've been getting feedback from enough people, enough users where they go, aha, we still have these issues to fix from the previous update, so let's create a patch and fix those issues. And so if you're always trying to make it perfect in a vacuum, I say it's the most selfish thing you can do, because there's someone out there crying themselves asleep, desperately needing your product or service, wanting to use that thing, and even in its most imperfect state, and you're not giving it to them, making it available to them, because you're so selfishly tied into, well, this thing represents me, and what if it doesn't look well, and what if it's not perfect, and what will people think? In the meantime, so many people are desperately needing your product or service. And so that's why I say it comes from a place of fear of the unknown and a place of selfishness, because if you're selfless, you will say it's not perfect, but it's good enough to launch, and I will course correct, fix, improve, and drive towards perfection as the days, weeks, months, and years go on. So that's where it comes from, right? Now, you can dive even deeper and go, well, are some people more prone to procrastination? Sure. If their family has raised them in a way where everything must be perfect, you have to get perfect grades. I met a a doctor. Just yesterday, I was in Austin speaking at Dr. Gabrielle's event 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday in the hotel lobby, I met a guy who was in the audience, and he's like, "Man, I'm a fellow of this, and I, top of the class for that, Harvard Medical School, blah, blah, blah." And he's listing off all of his accolades, like most every test that he's passed, 97%, like, is the lowest he's ever had. 97%, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, "Man, you are an impressive person." He goes, "Not to my dad. He would always tell me what happened to the other 3%, what happened to the 1%, what happened to the 2%, right?" So do you think this guy has a perfection problem? And could it be that the one question he asked me in the lobby while I was waiting for my Uber was, I know my business can do better. I know I can scale it, but what do I need? And as I started to dig in, I saw there was a procrastination issue, right? He needed to have 100% certainty that he had 100% of the game plan before he could execute. We don't have that. So yeah, can some people be more prone to procrastination? Yes. Could be a byproduct of how mom and dad instilled this lack of achievement in someone. But for the most part, it's usually fear and selfishness.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Looking back at Bedros 1.0, where did procrastination show up in your life? And how did you develop the mindset and the resilience to overcome that? Maybe some strategies we can share.
Yeah, for me, it was fear of the unknown. I knew I didn't know what was going to go wrong, and I didn't know how to solve it. I didn't have a mentor. When I first launched my first business, TotalMuscle.com, back in 1998, an online supplement store, TotalMuscle.com, with no Google, no Facebook, no way of advertisement, driving traffic, any of that, just dial up AOL, right? And I had the idea a year earlier when the internet had first started coming out, but
You had the internet or the vision when the internet came out. You're like, I'm going to go to market.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? Because to your credit, like I've known you since 2012, a long time, and I've always thought and I've always viewed that you adopt technology extremely well. But even so, like hearing your stories about high tech trainer, all this, it just seems you always had a knack for that.
Yeah, I think I adopt change extremely well. I think that might be factory installed in me. Like I can't take credit for saying I'm so brave and I'm such a great visionary. I just adapt to change very well. And when something new comes out, I take interest in it, and I always go, how could this change the landscape of, and then fill in the blank, right? And so I did that with the internet. Like, I worked out, I took supplements, and I knew what a pain in the butt it was to go to the store and buy supplements and to not have all the choices that you want, to only have the choices that store decided to carry. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if I had access to every creatine, every protein, every fish oil, everything, right? And wouldn't it be great if it would just get delivered to me? And I don't even know if Amazon was around then or not.
I mean, shit, man. I feel like that was Jeff Bezos' vision specific to books. That's actually how
Yeah.
he created the company.
Right.
He was seeing the trend. He was actually a hedge fund manager in New York. He's like, took a step back, saw this internet thing, and he was initially going to look at some other business models, but he realized like the artifacts of books, would be really, really valuable. And that's actually how he launched
Right.
Amazon.
Yeah. So we probably have the same thoughts. Mine was just in a much smaller and more meat-headed industry, right? Supplements, right?
Let's go.
Right. I want the best supplements. And because, you read a muscle magazine or whatever, and you see an ad for a supplement brand, and you go to your local GNC, and they're like, we don't carry it. Like, crap. So I'm like, where am I going to order it from? At the time, there was no internet to go to and search, right? I mean, the internet existed, but you'd be hard-pressed to find
Dial
it.
up, baby.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm going to be the guy that creates that thing. So anyway, that's where that came from. But I had the idea a year earlier. But there was the procrastination of 1 year was a byproduct of all the fears. I didn't know how much it was going to cost me, yet I didn't do the research to find out how much it was going to cost me. I didn't know how much inventory I would need. So there's a lot of didn't knows, yet I didn't do the research to know how much inventory I would want to buy. I didn't know how much boxes and tape and bubble wrap I would need to purchase. Like, there was so many things I didn't know. I didn't know if I needed to take my own snapshots of the products. So do I need to buy everything and take pictures? I don't know how to take pictures. Or are the supplement manufacturers that are going to sell me the products, do they have images that they can give me to put on the website, right? So there was so many, I was like, and when I started thinking about all of the things I didn't know, it started to feel overwhelming. And overwhelm is the mother of procrastination, because when you're overwhelmed by anything, you just want to stop. Exactly.
Analysis by paralysis, man.
Analysis by paralysis. And we all know an elephant is overwhelming, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
And we've all heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Man.
One bite at a time. It's not so overwhelming, one bite at a time. And so all of a sudden, when I thought about all the different ways that this totalmuscle.com could be problematic for me, all the unknowns, it became overwhelming and I stopped. And then here's the thing though, I hated my job so much. I was like, you know what? I hate my job so much that I'm willing to now do the research and figure out what is it going to cost me? How do I take credit cards online? Like those were all difficult things, man. Like there was no AVS verification, address verification service, AVS, right? So in other words, you put your credit card number in, you put in the right address, and then it goes, okay, this credit card belongs to that address, which is why so many people were stealing people's credit cards, buying shit off totalmuscle.com. I'd ship the product out, only then to have the credit card do a chargeback because that address did not match, that credit card did not match that address.
Oh, shoot.
AVS didn't exist yet, right? On the shopping cart exit.
Yeah.
Now, like it happens behind the scene.
Yeah.
Not only do you enter those, not only do you enter those 4-digit code or the 3-digit verification code that you're holding the card, but that address needs to be connected to that credit card. So, anyways, there was all these unknowns, and unknowns produce overwhelm, and overwhelm creates like a massive stop, pumps the brakes. So then what you do is you pick one thing and you go, today I'm going to figure out what the website's going to cost me. Tomorrow I'm going to figure out whether they can give me pictures. Next day I'm going to figure out how am I going to process credit cards online. One step at a time. Once I figured it out, it was less scary. And I was like, all right, let's execute. And totalmuscle.com was created. Now, it never was profitable. It made money, but it was never profitable simply because I didn't have a marketing system in place, because I would literally go on America Online, dial up, and back then you can check people's profiles. So I would look for males who worked out or were into powerlifting or bodybuilding, and then I would find all their accounts, and I would handwrite them an email with the link to totalmuscle.com. Like, hey, if you work out and you want protein and you want to build muscle, I've got every brand of protein and supplements out there, and here's a link to it. Go check it out. I would send out 200 emails a night. Had I probably sent out 2,000, I would have gained some traction.
Yeah, just not enough volume.
But I had supplements expiring faster than I can sell them, which means you can't sell expired supplements, so you throw those away and you buy more. And so before you know it, I just ran out of runway, financial runway, and that was the demise of totalmuscle.com.
Ooh, that's
but
a story, man.
the procrastination of it was literally I could have launched a year earlier. Mm-hmm. And if I had the brain I have today, I could have also gone to friends and family and raised money. So now I could have launched a year earlier. I could have had more money, which means I would have more financial runway, and maybe totalmuscle.com would have been the online version of Amazon where supplements are concerned.
Yeah, amen to that. But you know what? That said, I mean, hindsight says we know is 2020, and this is why I'm a huge proponent of modeling success. Success leaves clues. Get a mentor, get a coach, get a guide who's been there, done that, and they will show you the way. So, good little learning lesson from that. But kind of drilling in a little bit more on procrastination, do you find, at least for me, certain types of things that you procrastinate, or at least Bedros 1.0 did, or maybe just even to this day, even natural inclination? For me, it's usually anything, and I live in a proactive world. If you live in a reactive world, life is going to, hit you and beat you down, and you're not going to be successful. You have to be proactive. But for me, when it comes to outreach or sales or anything friction-based, when I understand or when I know that there's going to be some sort of output, outreach needed, something that I'm going to hit friction, that's typically where my reptile brain kind of just gives me a little bit of that procrastination feeling. That's how I see it show up. The good news, though, is what I found is once you put in one rep, okay, once you start building momentum, okay, what's the law of physics? A body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
The opposite is also true. A body at rest stays at rest. And this
Right.
is why it's so hard to basically create that catalyst or that momentum. But once you do, when I make that first sales call or when I shoot that first video, then it just seems to be like it all flows together. So that's my perspective. I'd love to unpack from your perspective.
No, I'm very much the same way. It's like if I know today, I pretty much don't procrastinate, even on things where I know there's going to be friction and some like tension. Mm-hmm. Having said that, that's where I feel procrastination rear its ugly head the most.
Yeah, you feel it.
Yeah, I feel it. And then like Suzanne Jeffers, who wrote a great book, her book was titled "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway."
Yeah.
I feel it, but I'm like, okay, procrastination is selfish. Procrastination is out of fear. You don't want to be operating out of fear because, to your credit, that's operating reactively and not proactively. And I don't want to be selfish about things. So go have this awkward, tense conversation and go get it done with. But I feel it, and that's the only time I feel it is when there's going to be friction.
You just said something so profound. I'm going to stop being selfish, and I'm just going to, lace up, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And I really think, earlier point, like it comes sometimes from a place of selfishness. You're not willing to put yourself
self-preservation, right?
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, and self-preservation is selfish. Like I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want my butthole to slam shut. I don't want Bryce to feel a certain way towards me, and so I'm just going to eat this for another week. But only for what? You build resentment or you hate yourself for it, etc.
And it grows and gets worse.
Yeah, it is a very selfish place to come from.
Yeah. A different angle on this, and it's interesting. We were in the studio last month talking about our dear friend Craigie Ballantyne, and he was presenting at a Fit Body Mastermind workshop that we had in Cancun, Mexico in Q4 of last year. And he actually said that morning routines in excess can be a perverse form of procrastination. And we know the buzz of morning routines, and there's value. I certainly have a morning routine, which I'll get an insight. But I'm curious on what's your relationship with morning routines that potentially could be a form of procrastination.
In everything I do the minimum required dose. Minimum required dose. And today, my friend, you know who Jimmy Rex is?
Yes.
My friend Jimmy Rex put up a post today, and he said, "Hey, if you're taking cold plunges and doing hikes on Mount Whitney and putting yourself through 75 hard and basically doing all these challenges and stuff, but you're broke, you should stop doing all those things that are just a form of procrastination." Because it's this false sense of busy work, right? Like, oh man, I'm taking on this challenge.
Yep.
I'm doing Bedros' 6-week marathon challenge, so I'm training all the time. I'm doing Andy's 75 hard, so I'm too busy to go out and make money right now. I'm doing a plunge, and I'm doing interpretive dance, and then I'm writing in my journal, and then I'm okay. At some point,
4 hours, 5 hours later, you hit the desk, and it's like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, at some point you should have gone out there and made money. And he said, just stop it and go out there and make money first. It is a form of procrastination. It is a very busy way of procrastinating, but it still is procrastination. And so I do believe that, and I do believe that we can procrastinate in a productive way that gives us this false sense of like I'm doing something positive. But at the end of the day, like go out and make your money. Or the people who are like, man, I'm so busy, I'm doing this, I got this hobby and that hobby, I'm like fit and jacked, and I'm all for being fit and jacked. But your relationship is struggling and suffering. Like, are you procrastinating on working on that? Mm-hmm. Like, what if you can put some effort into that relationship? So anyways, all this to say that procrastination shows up in a million different ways.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a fear of something, because maybe this person has this fear of going out there and making money because they've lost money in the past when they had a surplus. And so their reptilian mind is like, you go out there and make more money. You're either going to fail at it or you're going to lose it again and look stupid. Or maybe this person is like, they know that if they try and rekindle their relationship that's on its last leg, that it's going to take a lot of work. There's a lot of holes in the fences that you got to mend.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll just keep doing my hobbies and hope that this one leg can hold up this relationship, But it's all a form of procrastination.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, too. I think sometimes, a lot of business thought leaders like you and I will potentially be able to provide guidance. And maybe it was because after we found success, right? The things that we did in order to get successful, as business change, as life change, your schedule changes as well. And I think sometimes, people have, get the message wrong, if you will. So, one of my big calls to action is get to work earlier. And for me, my particular morning routine, how I try to overcome procrastinations, I'm up by 4. I work from 4:30 to 4:45. So I get 45 minutes of like work straight away. And I think that creates that momentum. And it's not fun. I don't want to do it, but I just got to do it because that's actually what starts the train. And then what I do is I get a circuit in, a 30-minute circuit, 4:45. I do a 3-minute cold plunge, but then I'm at my desk by 6:15 and I'm like ready to attack the day. And, from that perspective, that working out, the endorphins, that actually is valuable. Now, if I was working out 3-4 hours and I wasn't hitting the desk till 9 or 10 in the morning, that would be an issue. But for me, that really works. So I think what my recommendation would be is find something that works, but really try to get to your work and your measure time as soon as possible. That's going to move the needle long term, and that's going to overcome a lot of your procrastination type feelings.
Yeah. And so to that point, like when I think about it, like there wasn't much that you do. Like you get your 45 minutes in of work, but then you have a very tight morning routine.
Yeah, two things.
And then you're back to work again.
Yeah.
right? Like you can't avoid the thing that needs to get done, which is the work.
Right.
And you don't want to avoid that. And so going back to what I said, which is the minimum required dose. Like, what is my morning routine going to be like? Whatever is the minimum required dose to launch me into the most productive state. For me, I listen to Jack Johnson while I'm showering. I get out of the shower, send out 3 gratitude text messages to 3 people I'm grateful for in my life, just 3 random people in my life. And then I've got my coffee and protein shake and I'm sitting down and working. Like, that's it. I'm good to go. Like, I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to journal. I'm not, because all that does now is builds more anxiety towards the work that I have to do that's now competing against the clock, and now I got to go do the next thing.
Yes. Oof.
Just so I can say, hey, I did these 9 things before I launched my day, my work day. Fuck, man.
So, if someone's listening to this and it's like, okay, I get it, but for whatever reason, I'm struggling. I have a hard time. I know I need to get the work done, but I'm just having a hard time doing it. Bedros, like, can you help me? What's your piece of guidance or advice?
Yeah. Have a hard time. It's hard. Yeah. Have a hard time doing it. It's supposed to be hard before it gets easy. It became easy because it was hard at first. It was hard because I'd never done it before. It was unfamiliar. I hadn't done it. I hadn't built the muscle memory. I was like, I need to think of 3 people in my life before I can even think of what, like, message to send them. Like, when I was doing those gratitude text messages. Now, like, I wake up, like, already feeling, like, grateful towards, like, everybody. And it's like, okay, let me pick 3 people out of my life and send this thing out, right? And so, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. Do it anyway. It's supposed to suck. Do it anyway. I just started, I'm on, like, the 5th week of a 6-week jiu-jitsu challenge.
Oh, yeah. How's
right?
that going, by the way?
It's going well. It's going great. Like, if you ever want another man's, like, junk on your face while you're trying to fight for your survival, do jiu-jitsu. I mean, you can't be gay because you're obviously trying to get out of the position that you're in, that he's got you in, with his twigs and berries dangling over your head and sometimes pressed into your forehead. But you're trying to fight your way out of the position, so it can't be gay. It can't. Yet I maintain that it's still somewhat gay of me for doing this. But anyways, all that said, this might be the episode that gets you canceled, by the way. I think I just got the Fitness CEO podcast. Yeah. Pablo, you can turn off the lights. We're done. We're done. But anyway, having said that, in the first 2 weeks, like, I'm pretty athletic. I work out. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm good at a lot of sports, or a lot of athletic endeavors that I put myself, like surfing and one-wheeling and whatever. I balance coordination, strength, speed. Yet I would get frustrated over, like, some simple stuff. And Coach Mike, this black belt who's putting me through the 6-week challenge right now, he's like, you do realize, like, you're kind of offending me because I'm a black belt. I've had this black belt for going on like 20 years. You're 2 weeks in to a 6-week challenge and you're getting frustrated because you can't see the setup for the arm bar, or you don't know what hand goes on the wrist for the Americana. And I was like, he's got a good point. Now, 5 weeks in, Bryce, I see arm bars everywhere. I literally, like you'll be sitting there, I'm like, oh, I can arm bar that motherfucker. Like I'll see someone like Andrew's just like laying on the couch this way. I'm like, oh, there's an Americana waiting to happen, and here's exactly how I would do it.
Boom.
Right? Yeah. And so it just took 5 weeks. But in the first 2 weeks, I'm being a big baby and saying, this is hard, this is difficult. And my body felt like I'm hit by a truck every single day. But after 2 weeks, your body just kind of gets accustomed to it because you're being basically dismembered. Your joints are being stretched through its greatest range of mobility than ever before. And so your body's like, what the hell are you doing to me, dude? And then my favorite is, like, he's got me in a position and he holds, he goes, okay, what are you supposed to do now? I'm like, well, my shoulder hurts, my wrist hurts, and my elbow hurts. Your weight on top of me sucks, and you're dripping sweat on me. In this moment, I'm supposed to figure out what my first step is. And he's being kind to me. He stops and says, what are you supposed to do now? I'm like, this? He's like, no. That? No. He goes, starts with your left leg. What do? You have to first shrimp out of this position, create distance, create gap. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. But it's uncomfortable. It's hard. I don't want to be in that position. Like, I know going in, like, okay, at some point, we're going to be cheek to cheek with another sweaty man.
Oh, yeah.
In a compromised position that I'm in pain and discomfort after a long day of working at HQ. It's hard. I don't want to go. But now 5 weeks in, I'm like, man, I can't wait. Now I talk about it on social media because what I wanted to happen did happen. I'm like, if I talk about it on social media, guys that run jiu-jitsu schools all over the country will be like, dude, whenever, everyone knows that I fly a lot and I'm speaking. When you're in Austin, come roll with us. When you're in Columbus, come roll with us. Now I just literally travel with my shorts and my rash guard in my backpack, knowing that like I've got from Florida to California, I've got jiu-jitsu schools, like people who want to roll with me. So because my competency has gotten good for like a new guy, and I can somewhat keep another guy from tapping me out as long as they're at my level, maybe slightly better, it's actually fun now, right? So when it's hard, what do? Do it anyway. And then it gets easier. And then it becomes a pattern, and then it becomes a fixed habit. And then you're like, oh, this is just what I do. I don't procrastinate. I take action, and I stick to my morning routine, and life is pretty much predictable with the brief moments of unpredictable things that are meant to happen because, well, we're human.
Dude, man, kindred spirits. The last point is so interesting. I looked at this and I prepared 5 practical steps that, our audience can do to overcome, their funk of procrastination. And the last one is share your vision publicly. And when you share your vision publicly, you have that, I guess, public accountability. You did that, in terms of putting out your podcast and sharing that out. And now you have public accountability and you have community, which is my third step. So my first step is, number 1, create momentum. You need some sort of catalyst. For me, it's a workout and a cold plunge and 45 minutes of work when I get up. I don't want to do it, but you know what? Once I do it, to your point, I gain momentum, and then everything else becomes easier. So that's number 1, create momentum and have a catalyst. Number 2, put things in writing. For me, anything that I need to do, I put in writing on my Asana, because if I don't put it on my Asana, it's not going to get done. When I see it staring at me, I just feel this internal tug that like, Bryce, get your ass up and do that task. So that's number 2. Number 3, we just talked about, surround yourself with like-minded people, with a tribe of people who, are going to lift you up and going to support you, and also are high performers that don't procrastinate. Because when you do that, when I'm in your presence, okay, and hopefully you feel the same way, I just get a little bump, okay, a little fire-up energy to be a better version of me, all right? So find community and surround yourself with winners. Number 4 is hire accountability coach. For me, I have a hard time with stretching. So recently, and a friend of ours actually owns the parent company, if you will, but there's a company called Stretch Lab, and I've been going and get stretching. For whatever reason, I have a hard time with stretching. I'm a fast-paced type of guy. I just kind of hate sitting there, just like waiting and counting time. So for me, that's just a really hard thing for me to do. I almost feel like, someone who's 300 pounds, who knows they need to change, but they just have a hard time, and they walk in that door at boot camp. We're there to welcome them in. For whatever reason, they couldn't get their fitness together, but they need a coach. That's me when it comes to stretching. So hiring an accountability coach has been game-changing. I'm sitting in front of my accountability coach right now as well from a business lens. And then lastly, again, is just share publicly. And for me, as you know, and our audience should know by this point, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I think there's a lot of takeaways and wisdom that I like to share, but I also share it to hold myself accountable.
Right.
Okay, because to constantly remind myself that if I go down this path, then the outcome is not going to be what I want. So those are my 5 steps. B, I want to flip it over to you to kind of to bring us home. If there's anything else you can give us some insight on.
I think those 5 steps are perfect, man. And quite honestly, if someone would just stop and remember this word, I'm being selfish. Like these words, I'm being selfish. Anytime you procrastinate, you're hurting yourself or other people. Could be near and dear family members, because if you're procrastinating on making money, getting fit, fixing your mental health, anything you procrastinate is hurting you and others, and is the most selfish thing you can do. And if it's a business and you're procrastinating on launching that business, there's someone out there, probably hundreds of people out there, thousands perhaps, who could benefit from it. But because you're waiting for perfection and not taking imperfect action, that selfishness is really causing people to miss out on something awesome, and probably they're going to go use a lesser product, or even worse, not use anything, and only find themselves in a worse position weeks, months, years down the line. And so if you could realize that what I'm doing is selfish, and I'm not a selfish person, I better lean into action. And that's the first step, is that momentum. And when you do, all the other 5 dominoes just fall down.
Amen. All right, my dude, anything else?
That's it. We got it.
Well, why don't you take us home today?
All right, guys and gals, thank you for watching this episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. I'm Bedros Keuilian. He's Bryce Henson. If you got a lot of value from this episode, please take a screenshot, share it on social media, and tag us. And also be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you next time.